To finish out this comparison, I'll run a benchmark on both phones. So we'll load up Smartbench here, and we'll start. Now we probably won't get all the way through this benchmark. I've noticed that the Intercept actually seems to fail when you get near the end of the benchmark, so we may not get actual numbers to compare, but I think just watching the Optimus race ahead of the Intercept really tells the story of how much more capable and responsive this phone is. So while I'm letting those run, I'll just talk about my general impressions of the phone. The call quality on both is quite good. I haven't had any problems with that. But in just about every respect, I would say that the Optimus is the superior phone to the Intercept. It has a clearer, high-resolution screen, text is easier to read, you have more pixels to work with, you can see more of a web page when you load it. The screen has a greater range and brightness, which not only are the brightest settings brighter than the Intercept, but the faintest setting is actually fainter, which is, believe it or not, a useful feature. I found with the Intercept that if I'm reading the screen in the dark, it can actually be a little too bright and hurt my eyes a little bit. With the Optimus, the faintest screen setting is just about perfect for reading in the dark. You have a very responsive interface. You never have to wait for the home screen to come up. You never have to wait for applications to switch. I've run this thing with a music player in the background, a tracking application for while I'm doing a workout. I've had the browser up and running, and I've been navigating maps all at the same time, and it just never seems to slow down. The Intercept, in contrast, even running one application is sometimes too much for it. Running 2 or 3 at the same time, you do notice a very serious slowdown. Graphics are very smooth if you're scrolling or zooming in the web browser, if you're sweeping between pages on the home screen, if you're playing Angry Birds. It's just overall a much smoother experience. The Optimus has Froyo pre-installed. The Intercept may be getting it pretty soon, but for now it is a definite advantage for the Optimus. The phone is thinner and lighter. You have hardware buttons, which I mentioned really liking. It's nice to have a physical key that you can press rather than just a soft surface that you tap and get a little vibration as feedback. In the dark especially, it's easy to feel for these buttons, find them and press them. It's pretty hard to find, say, the home button in the dark if the backlight isn't on. I also like that the Optimus comes with headphones. If you don't already have headphones with a clicker button for advancing music, it's a killer feature if you want to use this as an MP3 player. The main downside of the Optimus is the lack of a physical keyboard that the Intercept has. If you're big into texting, if you're sending a lot of emails, that may be a necessary feature for you. I have found that the swipe keyboard on the Optimus does work quite well once you get used to it. So that is a bit of an upside for the Optimus. But overall, I would just say that the Optimus works much better for me as a phone that just works and that's a pleasure to use. I would strongly recommend it. The Intercept was my first smartphone, and frankly it's better than nothing if you want to get into the smartphone arena, but it isn't something I'd be able to recommend to relatives, let's say, who just want a phone that works. I'd find myself trying to tweak it with different home screens to fix the unresponsive home problem. I would try different browsers like Dolphin and Opera to improve browsing speed, but I could never really see an appreciable difference tweaking all these settings. I would reset the phone and keep it to just the bare minimum number of apps to try to see if that improved responsiveness, but nothing really seemed to help. It was overall a very laggy experience. In contrast, the Optimus has been a real pleasure to use, and I would happily recommend it to anyone who was interested in a smartphone. I like to save money, so Virgin Mobile's pricing really appealed to me. But when I was stuck on the Intercept, I really found myself liking the service, but not liking the phone. Now that the Optimus is available, I think it's an amazing deal, and I'd quite happily recommend it to anyone who wants to get a smartphone. So I hope you've found some of this information to be useful, and have a good day.